Yes.
Okay, it's now being recorded. My name is Ed Veal. I'm here with the McKinney Public Library, and I'm the sysadmin librarian supervisor. That's about it for me to begin with. Let's just go on. I don't know how this looks. I'll go with Jason and then Fred and on down the row that way.
Okay. I'm Jason Robb. I'm the Seek and Find Coordinator here at the Southeast Kansas Library System in Iola, Kansas. And I'm also the koha-US Secretary. So if you have koha-US related questions, I can try and answer them.
Hey, I'm Fred King, medical librarian at Washington Hospital Center in Washington, D.C. As far as koha goes, I'm responsible for pretty much everything.
Michael?
I'm Michael from the Central Kansas Library System in Great Bend, Kansas. Pretty new to systems administration. This is starting my third month, and I do basically managing of Pathfinder for our consortium.
Who's next? People are jumping around. Christopher.
Hello, I'm Christopher. I'm from Ajax, Ontario. I've been the koha admin since we went live, and I keep finding out how deep the deep end actually is in this. So nice to meet everybody.
All right. Shannon? All right. Some folks are introducing themselves in the chat. That's great.
I can't hear anything.
Sounds like somebody's on fire. Okay. Okay, Barbara introduced herself in the chat. We've got a number of other folks introducing themselves in the chat. Would anybody else like to introduce themselves, or has everybody kind of done it in the chat? All right, who is fire? I'm just curious. Okay. I did send out a basic agenda. And on the agenda, I just listed some things that I thought would be interesting to talk about. For those that are new to running koha, questions kind of come up is, what are all these system preferences and how do they work? That is a huge question.
I didn't see that as an option.
Oh.
Wait, there it is.
Okay, I think. Okay. And the question kind of came up about system preferences and how they work. I know some of us have been around for a long time, so it's hard for us to not think in terms of how the system preferences all kind of work together and that kind of thing. Then you've got different upgrades where they change and jump around. What questions do any of the new folks to systems administration here within koha have about the system preferences, either generally or specifically?
I had a couple questions. The first thing is, I've found a lot of helpful resources for learning koha in general, including Bywater support, the chat on Slack, koha live chat. There's several email groups, koha-US and koha International, and then the koha community page and the wiki. And I was just wondering if there's any more good resources that I'm missing out on, any more places I need to check out.
I'm mentally going through your list.
I'll go ahead, I'll type it in chat here.
I can't even find chat.
Chat feature, there should be down at the bottom of the Zoom window where it says chat. as you've mentioned, there are a lot of different resources out there. Put the different list in there. Fred is self-supported. And is Fred the only one in the group that's self-supported right now? Anybody else self-supported other than Fred?
There it is.
Okay, then I'll talk. Yes, what I found most useful is first of all, I started out learning Koha by putting up a test site, which I could easily repair. And I just started figuring out, okay, what happens when I change this function? Okay, oh, it does that. Okay. This one, oh, no, I had wiped out the entire database. Maybe that's rm-r is probably not the right thing to put in. Okay, I can tell all you Linux geeks are laughing, but don't try that at home. But yeah, just trial and error. What's the worst that could happen? You could wipe out your entire system, but it's not the real one.
Do you have, Fred, I know you have many little Raspberry Pi test servers floating around, I'm sure. Michael, do you have a test server that you can play with, or are you playing live?
Yes, we do have a test server.
Okay, that's always helpful.
Actually, I don't use Raspberry Pi as much as I use DigitalOcean. Spin up another library, $5 a month.
Yeah, I was also just plugging your Raspberry Pi presentation.
Yeah, that too. Except it's not exactly standard Ubuntu, so it has a little weirdness in it.
Can anybody think of any good resources to point folks to that aren't already listed up here? We've got the Slack channel, which is for Bywater partners. I see we've got a couple of others added. IRC groups. And I know some folks can't get to IRC. I, for one, can't get to IRC on our network. So I have to go, I can only access that particular ways. The wiki pages, those kinds of things. I see Carolyn posted a link to a resource you all have. What is this resource? You want to tell us about it? Okay.
Oh, something else Carolyn does, they do is like a Koha instance cataloging all the plugins. I think that's really, really awesome and helpful. If you have a link to that, I could post that. That would be awesome.
And what was this again? Koha?
Sorry, I muted myself. It's a Koha instance, but they've gone through and cataloged all the different plugins that are available to Koha. Things you can add on to Koha to make it, to enhance it. So I think that's really useful because there's a lot of stuff out there.
Cool, good to know. All right. Are there any specific system preference interactions, any specific system preferences you had a question about, Michael?
I was playing around a lot with reports in the last week or so, and I'm not even sure if this is actually a system preference, but I'm trying to find the tables for example, where the items table and biblio tables and things like that, and where those are defined.
Oh, the schema is a resource. Yeah,
Yes.
That's one we should share.
Yes, somebody just put it in the chat. That links out to the schema for Koha.
So that lists out all your tables, and then you can, if you click into a table, you can see what fields are in the table, And if you scroll down a little bit, it shows relationships between the different tables. So that's what you need, I think.
And it's so much easier to look at now than it used to be.
I mean, sort of. It used to be one page, so you could do a Control F and find things on the page. Now you have to use the little search box on the right there to filter down to things. So
Yeah.
I think it is better. I just had to get used to it.
All right. Is anybody working on anything fun that they'd like to share? We just had a new automated materials handler system put in, literally within it went live last week here at this location. And it's been an interesting adventure, getting it all to communicate properly. Fortunately, none of it has had anything to do with Koha. The Koha piece was the easiest piece of all, which was nice.
I like it though.
Excuse me? Thought somebody said something. Is anybody else using a materials handler that they had issues with? Any of that?
No, but eventually I have an answer for Janice.
Oh, yes. Let's answer that.
Okay. It's been a long time since I've done that, but I think it's when you do the upload records to the reservoir, I'll give you an option to match. Should we give me a couple of minutes?
Carolyn.
Oh, wait a minute. Carolyn has it.
Yeah, she just posted a nice link.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah, so it's under the catalog category on the administration tab. There's one called record matching rules where you can go in and set up new rules to match on records.
Yeah, I tried matching the title and the 099, which in my author's catalog is the PubMed unique identifier in Medline. So it doesn't even have to be a standard cataloging thing. Anything you want.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions in the chat that I missed? I don't think so. Yeah, our biggest problem with the materials handler was we've got so many different generations of RFID tags that one of the generations isn't being read, and we're working on that, trying to get that to work before we have to re-RFID everything, or the old ones.
Approximately how many items are you looking at?
Well, that's part of the problem we don't know. We do a lot of full processing of material. So basically, most of the material from sometime in 2014 back. So it could be a large amount. It also could be a smaller amount. It's hard to tell. The folks that do our full processing, for about a year there, they were using multiple types and shifting from one RFID tag to another. So we're having to figure all that out. The self-check machines that I just deployed yesterday were having a similar problem. The difference is the RFID pads are Biblioteca, and Biblioteca is the one that we're the tags with.
We're getting some nasty feedback from the fire.
I just muted fire. Can they unmute if I mute them? Jason, do you know?
They should be able to, but they're on a Kindle Fire, so I've never actually tried that.
Oh, okay.
What was that? The sunlight hitting TMA1? Okay, one person's old enough to get the reference.
All right. What other topics does anybody want to talk about? Anybody written any fun reports recently? Anybody have any bugs that are coming up in the next, or in 1911 or 2005?
I have a question about public reports. You use public reports, right? Maybe not
Yes.
public reports. How about querying reports through JSON?
Okay.
I'm having issues with caching. So like I made this little widget to search phone numbers by pulling data from a report using JavaScript. And whenever I search certain numbers, it's using like a cached version of the JSON. Have any ideas? I know there's a cache setting on the report and I've lowered that, but it doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, that's the only thing
How
I've
are you
used.
pulling it?
Yeah,
It's
that's
with
the only thing I've used.
a get JSON call in the JavaScript system preference.
Can you add a random parameter at the end of the URL to force it to go back?
Maybe.
It's just a random string of numbers or like Unix timestamp, fire it out there, and it should force it back out to get it again.
Okay. I did see something like that on Stack Overflow, and I was like, I don't know. But I'll try it.
We're working on, I don't even know if this is the right forum for it, but we're working on an app right now for Koha. And that was one of the issues we had where it wasn't refreshing at all. Like it was, you'd be stuck on whatever you had. We've just fired a random number at the end of it, and it seemed to clear it up.
Okay, I'll give that a try. Thanks.
Has anybody played with Unki? I spun up a test server and have it running, pointing to one of our Koha test servers, and we're going to play with that for a bit and try to build a nice public dashboard and see how that's going to work out. I've been working with Paul on that a bit.
Yeah, it's on my list of things to look at. What are you going to use it for?
The city of McKinney has been pushing all this transparency, and that's what we were using. We're going to try to use the public reports through JSON for. But if we can get Unki to interact with it, it is a much nicer, cleaner dashboard interface that we can send citizens to look at all sorts of different reporting pieces.
Neat.
Like I said, we've got to test and stuff. It's not easy. It's easy to install and get going. The hard part is you've got to go in and make all of the connections within all the Koha tables. When you point it to Koha, it doesn't know what all the relationships are. So you've got to go in there and say, okay, here's the, the connectors between all the different tables. And I got a few of them up and running for our test purposes. And the next task, once I get these self-checks finished, is to get back into that and start really building that data out to then start generating some real nice reports. We've got some decent proof of concepts up, but that's about it right now.
Are you going to do a presentation at the next koha-US?
Planning on doing it at koha-US.
I think I'll wait and I'll explore it once you have all the connections made and I can harvest your information.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you're going to harvest it. That's the problem. You point it to any database you want, and it just grabs all the tables from that database and connects to it. But it doesn't necessarily know the relationships. You've got to tell it the relationships, which can be a bit of a problem. The one thing we'd like to try to do is if we can point it to other databases as well, if we can get for things like we're building a programming database for all of our different youth programs and adult programs, and teen programs. And we'd like to try to find ways to connect that information to see what we can find, because you can connect anything within it. So you can really break data. Does anybody have anything else? I've kind of run through most of this. I guess it's March, so those that are with Bywater are expecting upgrades in the next few months. Has anybody started looking at the 1911? Is anybody already on 1911? Anybody have any 1911 stories?
So I've got like 4 developments coming in 1911, and one of them is the patron club holds feature, which we're really excited about. And basically it allows you to create a club for like an author. So we have the James Patterson Club, and then we can add all the patrons that want the new James Patterson book. And whenever we add a new book, we can then put a hold on for all those patrons in a random order with one click. There's still some kinks we're working out as far as working in a consortium with it, but I think it's going to save a lot of time because right now people are maintaining paper or spreadsheets of all those patrons, and then every time we add a new James Patterson, they have to go in and add the holds one by one. So we're excited about that one.
So it's going to randomly put the order.
Yes.
So one James Patterson book, you could be number 5 in line, and the next you could be number 55 in line.
That is correct, yeah. And in the consortium, we do have local holds prioritization set. So as long as the libraries are buying their own copies, they're still getting their patron first. So it's going to work for us, I think. Barbara asked, can patrons add themselves to the list? I don't think they can self-subscribe yet, but that's something that we were looking into as well. It's using the patron hold, or no, the patron clubs feature, which is kind of underused at this point. So we're giving some functionality there.
Just saw a question from Janice about adding a second location. And when you say you will not do ILL, what do you mean? Do you mean not between the 2 locations, or ILL in its broader sense? So you will not be moving books back and forth from each location. Okay, those of you in a consortia are probably better at answering that than I am, because we share everything.
So it's doable. I don't know. You could look into the independent branches system preference to keep them completely separate, but you don't have to do that. We ended up turning that off because it inhibited sharing. But if you've just got 2 branches, that might be something to look at. But you can also set it up in the, I want to say the strict find rules in the holds area down there to prevent holds from one location at another location. Maybe someone else can jump in.
Okay, so you're wanting to set it up so that they can't place holds, can't access other material. Do you want them to be able to see the other material, the material at the other location? Or are they acting as 2 totally independent locations?
Sorry, I'm trying to look at my rules here, but yeah, I think as far as the holds policy goes, as long as you're set up to no holds allowed, then the other branches are going to be able to place holds on the first branch's stuff. And yeah, Carolyn added some stuff in the chat that might help you as well.
Yes, and make sure you test it.
I have a related question. I may be helping someone set up a library for a college, and his ultimate goal is someday, maybe, possibly, adding 2 more colleges. I don't know if he'd want to share libraries, or share materials between them, or what. What would be the best way to set up the first one? Just set it up so it works, and then worry about the 2 other colleges later? Okay.
That would be my recommendation. Especially if you don't know whether they're going to want to share or not. You might as well just set it up to work and then make adjustments if you need to.
Sounds good.
All right. Anything else?
I do have a couple questions about notices, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Notices are fun.
Yeah, they are. First of all, there is some information about the template toolkit, the new syntax on the wiki, but there's not a whole lot there. This is kind of another reference request, I guess. Are there other places that really teach you how to use that pretty well, or is it kind of a learn as you go kind of thing?
I have the manual bookmarked, but I can't translate it for you. But there's a link to the full template toolkit manual. I'm no use in the template toolkit realm, but I hope someone that is puts together a training or something, because I'd like to learn more.
Yeah, I know we've tried to use some of the features in it, but Lucas has done most of the work for us whenever we've wanted to use it. Lucas and Andrew. It'd be a nice thing to ask them to do a webinar on.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
I'll definitely bring that up at the education meeting.
Yeah. Because I don't think any of us know enough about it yet.
Okay. And then I had a follow-up question. There's, I know when you're looking at the notices and formatting them, there's a little button that says preview, and it's got a little eye next on it. And I was hoping that would show you what the notice looks like, but it's not. It doesn't seem to be working, and I don't know. Is that not what the preview button is for, or do we have to manually create, a trigger for a notice to see what it looks like, or is there a way to actually test it somehow?
I'm trying to remember. Maybe there's documentation in the training manual on it. I know you have to put in a number, like a borrower number, when you're running the preview, so you have a real use case. But it seems like there were system preferences associated. Maybe, I don't know. I don't use this either.
Yeah, I don't use the preview because we've had ours set for so long.
Okay, I may just ask Bywater about that.
Yeah, I can definitely remember when they added it and talked about it during an upgrade webinar, but I can't remember how it works.
Yeah, I think there is a system preference to turn it on at least.
Well, I have a very strange upgrade story. I mean, notice story. Which is that it took me a while to figure out how to use the mail server, and finally configured notices, send them out. It was working fine. And then on December 31st, 2018, it stopped working for whatever reason. And when I was looking around to try to upgrade the server, which is now stuck in IT's realm. But anyway, I tried making a duplicate disk using Ubuntu DD and then popped it into a PC just to see if I could upgrade 1705, which I can. But that evening, it sent out about a year's worth of overdue notices. And I never found anyone who could explain why. I mean, clearly it's a hardware problem, but why that happened.
But it could be that they were all queued up, and then maybe when you reset something, it shook them all loose. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, they were in a file. I think it's the one called mail, but I don't know why it stopped suddenly. Carolyn, yeah, that might be an idea. Anyway, I'm hoping to start afresh if I ever figure out how to use the DigitalOcean server.
All right. Anything else? I've actually gotten 2 messages while you've been in here about issues with my self-check machines. So I might have to jet here in a minute. Anybody else have anything? Oh, we had a question about the phone notices. Is that what's?
Somebody was asking if people used phone notice, and I know that we don't. Bywater suggested we not do that because there's no digest option right now, and so people may get a lot of text messages, individual ones, and so if they create a digest option for text, we may consider it, but even then it would probably be pretty long. So it's not something we're doing right now, and that's the reason why.
Yeah, we're using the text messaging, and nobody's complained about the volume of them. But
Yeah, I think our biggest problem with text messaging is this, like, things getting caught in spam and then the filters rejecting them eventually. Barbara, are you talking about texting or like phone calling, a phone calling service? Landline, yeah. We don't do that. I know that maybe it's Reno that does talking tech. I know they were big into developing that at one point.
We're still using ITIVA, but we've got a development in place with Koha coming up. Hopefully, it's got to be by the end of the year, to ditch them and do it through Twilio. Twilio handles our text messaging because when we came over from Symphony, our text messages up here work a little bit different than your guys down there. We don't have the provider information in our system, so we couldn't use the built-in one. We had to outsource that. But we're hoping to have that built through Twilio, and I think it's like, up here it's like 2 cents a minute. 2 cents per minute per call. So it's going to cost us a fraction of what we're paying with ITIVA, even with the development cost. So we're hoping to have that in at the end of the year. If anybody wants to pitch some money in, I will happily take your $1.30 for every dollar we have. But yeah, Twilio has been absolutely fantastic. Sorry, I'm just looking at Caroline's response here. We send about 300 text messages per day, and we get a kickback of maybe 20 a week that didn't make it and mostly because the phone was off. But we have full record of what was sent, where it was sent, what time it was sent, what the error message was, and it integrates. Our integration with Bywater was fantastic, and it digests. So I don't know if that makes a difference for anybody.
And so you have that working right now. It's just waiting to get it into Koha proper.
Sorry, which part? Text messaging or the phone messaging?
The text messaging.
Text
the
messaging
digest.
has been working since we went live the beginning of last year. I don't remember the cost of it. We pumped in, I think it was $1,000 when we first went live in December of 2018, and we're still working off that number. So I think we were still about $350 or $375 in float money with Twilio. So the cost is not that extravagant. But the phone messaging is in the hopper. I'm waiting for we just got a new CEO here, so I'm waiting for her to sign the paperwork and get it into Bywater's hopper, and then we hope to have it done by Q4 this year.
Okay.
But if anybody has questions about how Twilio worked for us or how we even set it up, because it's a little bit convoluted to set up, I'm more than happy to answer anything.
All right. Anything else? Going to wrap this up. Okay. Does anyone have patrons who don't want notices by text or email? We don't print them. That's how we handle it.
I wish. We do. We have like a cron job that runs, and if they don't have a valid text or email, then it falls back to the cron job, and the system sends each branch a list of formatted overdues that the libraries then can choose to either print out or call or ignore.
And the only close to an option, we have some folks that want hold notices. They don't want to get it. They don't have an email address and don't want texting for hold notices. And so we have a report set up to grab those, and we call those individuals, but that's less than 20 people. How can I nicely say that? How can I nicely say this? They will eventually die off. And yes, that's now been recorded. Okay, Carolyn, you mentioned the a bug in Bugzilla that you can't find. Is that the one for the digest on the? Okay. All right. If anybody has anything else, speak now, or I think we're going to wrap this up. Oh, congratulations, Michael, on submitting your first bug.
Thanks. It's a really trivial one. It was just I was wondering if there was a way to put a after you finish a report to show the report number as well as the name once you run it. So it's really trivial. You can find that up in the URL, but I thought it was good practice and wouldn't hurt to try it.
Yeah, so after you run the report where it has the title of the report up at the top, you want the report number there as well. That could be handy. All right. All right, well, I'm thinking it's time to wrap it up. I promise I will try to have a better agenda together for next month, but I kind of like this free form, honestly. I like the way it goes and shifts and moves around. I know we have some dead space, but I'll try to have some topics to at least try to get discussion started. If anybody has suggestions, feel free to email them to the group or to me. And we can get more active on that, on the Google group. If people have questions for Christopher about what he was talking about, questions for anybody about what all we've talked about, feel free to ask. Okay? All right. Nobody has anything else, then let's say goodbye. Bye.
Thanks, Ed.
Somebody asked about the Google group information. Jason, that was in the, Christopher privately messaged me about the Google group information. Do you mind sending that to Christopher?
Yeah, I'll send out all the information and to the list. So how to use it, and also a link to the Zoom meeting, just in case people didn't have that.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be an admin on that, and I think I'm set up, but it looks different than all the others, so I'm not sure. If you can just check my stuff, I'd appreciate it.
I will do my best. If I can't figure it out, I'll ask Lizette. She
Okay.
handles all that, so
Okay.
we'll get it.